is a cutaway display, and it shows 3 of our major competitors' balls cut open. They're all exactly the same. So when you have those next to a ball that has a hollow 0.9-inch 304 grade A stainless steel center, it is undeniably different. And then you look at what the physics and the science behind it are, and then the reason for creating it, which was we created it to make a ball to help grow the sport for the masses.
That's right. Golfers everywhere, this is what the Pace of Change Golf Podcast is all about. Get ready to hear more from this young visionary, Bret Blakely, co-founder of one of the first truly 21st century golf brands, OnCore Golf. Are you ready? We do it fast. We make it fun. So turn it up and enjoy episode 11 of the Pace of Change Golf Podcast. Hey guys, this episode of the Pace of Change Golf Podcast is brought to you by Taylor Brands. It's 2016 and it's never been easier to start a business, sell a product, or offer a service. But oftentimes the first step in the process, designing a high quality logo and brand, keeps many would-be entrepreneurs from moving forward. But what if you could design anything you need in less than 30 seconds at an affordable cost? Does it sound impossible? With Taylor Brands' online platform, you can. At taylorbrands.com, you can build custom logos, presentations, or even entire brands with ease. No hidden tricks, no pre-made logos. I've personally used their platforms a couple times now, and just about every other online logo design website you can find in the past. Without a doubt, Taylor Brands' logo building process is the easiest, fastest, and highest quality product I've ever tested. Now, I could easily spend hundreds of dollars on other crowdsourcing design sites, and unfortunately, I have. But don't make the same mistake. Try it for free today. You can go through the entire process and then decide if you want to make the purchase. And as a special offer to our listeners, purchase the professional bundle and receive a free social profile banner upgrade. Guys, that's a $25 value. Use the promo code PACEOFCHANGE at checkout. Alright, so I had a chance to play golf the other day. It was nice. This is kind of my off season, but like most people, I'm not out there enough really getting the practice in, getting the short game practice in. So I finished my round. I shoot a few over par, and it doesn't take much to go back and think about the inches, the few inches on the putting green, and a couple of feet here and there out on the golf course. And my 75 turns into a 67, and I'm happy as can be. Don't we all do that? I mean, we really should marvel at how small the deviation is between our best rounds and our worst scores. It's a matter of feet, when you add it all together. But really, it's that sensitivity to performance. That's where the fires of innovation are burning in the golf industry right now. If you've got a product that can fill a scoring gap, man, that's potentially worth millions of dollars in golfers' pockets. Bret Blakely is a part of this new breed of golf entrepreneur that understands that and is driven by this passion to improve quality of play by focusing their innovation and their solutions on the biggest problems golfers are facing. We know what they are: time, money, fun. In the case of Bret and the company he co-founded in 2009, OnCore Golf, their mission is clear. Let's grow the game. Let's reach the masses by designing a golf ball that helps the players score better more often and therefore have more fun in less time. OnCore's patented core technology dares to spare us those precious, valuable inches and feet. But that promise didn't come easily. And this is a great story. Hey, I was personally inspired by Bret's story. I hope you are too. Let's get right into it. Bret Blakely, co-founder of OnCore Golf. All right, guys. Hey, it is episode 11. We are moving forward. Today we have a really special guest. His name's Bret Blakely, and he is with OnCore Golf. Now, if you don't know about OnCore Golf, I'm going to let Bret tell you about it. Bret, how you doing today?
I'm pretty good, Scott. How about you?
Awesome, man. Where are you in the world?
Right now I'm in West Palm. I
Woo!
was in Buffalo, New York this morning. Last night I had a doubleheader hockey game, and we were playing in freezing rain turning to ice. So it's a nice
Yeah.
departure for a couple days.
And
But I
tonight you're
love
in.
Buffalo, but it's good to be under some palm trees.
That's great. Well, listen, for those listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you, Bret, and a little bit about your company, OnCore.
Sure. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I know it's kind of funny that a guy and a buddy, both from the Northeast. Now, Steve, the co-founder, is from Buffalo, but both of us coming from places that do have 6 months of winter and all that. Probably the last industry you think they'd get into is golf, but I grew up playing hockey and every sport under the sun, and I just love I love the community aspect of Buffalo. In fact, it's really shaped a lot of the vision for OnCore, which is to try and create a community of people that not only obviously enjoy the products that we put out, but really, the brand identity that we're trying to create and the people that we have on the team, that our values and everything resonate with a group of people. And they don't need to be 500 million people. We want people that see something in themselves in OnCore, and that's really kind of what's exciting about it is being a little guy. You don't always have to worry or overconcern yourself with trying to appease the masses. It's more about sticking to a vision that you're passionate about, and finding a group of people, a core of people that it really resonates with them, and they'll follow you for that. They'll follow you through anything.
Look, you're going up against companies like Titleist, okay, we could just stop right there. But Titleist,
Right.
Callaway, Strixon, these other major, golf ball manufacturing companies, and you're going up against them. And so you really can't sell, it's harder to try and pitch the product and the specifications of the product, although that needs to be done. But to have success, you're going to have to build a community of people who love what you're offering, but they love the community aspect of it. And it sounds like that's what you are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever read Blue Ocean Strategy, but
I'm all about the Blue Ocean Strategy. That's how we're going to change the game of golf, bro. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Well, it's my favorite book, and I read that before starting OnCore. So when you say we're up against Titleist and Callaway, technically we are, but our vision is taking that Blue Ocean approach where I don't look at ourselves in competition with them, because what we're doing is we're entering an industry that they also live and breathe in, but we are creating or trying to create an atmosphere and a section of that industry that does not swim in those same waters as them. Everything about our product and about the brand is meant to be differentiated from them. Therefore, competition only comes when you're doing something like-minded to the people that you're competing against. And our approach and our vision, I think, is completely separate from the way, Titleist and some of the bigger companies run their businesses and their day-to-day operations and all that.
Man, that's fantastic. Okay, so look, for the listeners, because I love this stuff. This is what I thrive on, okay? But let's tell the listeners really quickly. You've read the book. I've skimmed the book. I've taken classes, actually. I don't know if you've heard of an online platform called Coursera.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I take Coursera classes because they're cheap as heck, and you literally take classes from, like, Princeton and, I mean, all these amazing schools, and you do it online, and you can learn so much. So I take copious notes, and sometimes I've even been through and gotten a certificate. But one of the things that I learned in some of their entrepreneurship classes is the difference between a red ocean strategy and a blue ocean strategy. So take a few minutes and
Sure.
Enlighten the listeners about that.
Yeah, I think the best way to kind of explain the whole philosophy of that book is, the red ocean are the blood-filled waters that all the sharks are swimming in. So, for us to enter the golf ball industry, everyone says it's one of the most impenetrable, impossible industries to get into, because it's dominated by, 5 guys that are just billion-dollar Goliaths. So that is the red ocean. That's where all the blood and the chum is getting chewed up.
Yeah.
I want no part of that. I like the ocean. I don't want to be scared of the water. So the blue ocean is creating your own space that, although it may be in the same industry, you've kind of created your own path and road for others to still enjoy that industry, but in a much different capacity. So, Blue Ocean, a great example that they use is Yellowtail wine. Prior to Yellowtail, the wine industry was basically every wine was specific to a very specific palate. It was like it's got to be woodsy, oaksy with a tint of almond or
whatever. It was dominated by the massive vineyards in Napa and over in France and places like that.
And all these wines were for very specific palates, and if you like the Chardonnay from wherever, you're not going to like the Chardonnay from maybe 2 towns over because they were that different.
Yeah.
Yellowtail came in and said, all right, we need to come with a lower price point wine for the masses, and we need to come up with a red and a white that please the general palate, a generic palate. And so they came up with a very sweet red and a very sweet white that was at a price point that was affordable, and they opened up the wine industry and took it from just being more of an elitist type of, beverage that only the guys with a lot of money that wanted to spend, hey, this is my $100 bottle of 1995, Bordeaux or whatever. They said, no, let's make something that, college kids and people that live on a budget that maybe haven't had the experience of expanding their palate to such a refined, taste would enjoy. So, Yellowtail's an example. Cirque du Soleil, what they did with the circus industry, flipped it on its head. Yeah, turned it into, a performance art and, somewhat of a concert even. You see what they've done. So, yeah, they're part of the circus industry, but they are completely unique from it as well.
You know what I love about Cirque du Soleil, and I've been to a couple of them, is the interaction between the music, the orchestra, and the performers, because it's live. The music is live. They're not pressing play on a tape. They are, and so just to feel that energy going on inside that tent when that's happening. When everything comes together and they're pulling off their stunts and the music is crescendoing at the right time, it's something to be a part of, man.
Yeah.
And so, really when we're talking about blue ocean strategy, red ocean strategy, that kind of thing, one point to add is that in these times, if you're going to be truly innovative, now innovation, I think, and being innovative, that's a word that's just thrown around in the golf industry, and I think it's lost a lot of its true meaning. Every time they come out with a new a new driver, a new golf ball, the Titleist comes out with their next golf ball or whatever, they call it innovation. But, what is true innovation? True innovation is a product that disrupts the industry, that it is so different that it completely changes the entire industry that product is coming out or that service is coming out in. And so, almost every marketing message you're going to see in the golf industry, every time they release, instead of the M1, it's the M2, and it's completely innovative and totally different. And that's not necessarily true. And so when you're talking about a blue ocean strategy, what you're talking about is innovation. If you're going to be innovative in your market, then a blue ocean strategy is a great idea. And guess who benefits from that innovation? Like talking about the wine industry and Yellowtail, guess who benefited from that? Not just Yellowtail, not just the hundreds of new wineries and new companies just like Yellowtail, but all those big guys are now benefiting from the little ones going out and being innovative and bringing in millions upon millions upon millions of new customers.
No, you're 100% right. They expanded the market rather than shrink it. And I knew I liked you. You're a smart cookie, Scott. you totally get, what we're trying to do. But it's just unfortunate because I think a lot of, the big companies in any industry that is dominated by a handful they get very comfortable and they get very lazy and they are more focused on basically just capturing every single person in an industry that they help build. Which, don't get me wrong, Titleist is synonymous with golf.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, right now, their mentality and approach to the game is destroying the very empire they helped build. You cannot grow a sport by stifling innovative products that make the game more enjoyable for more people. They're shrinking the critical mass of people that got them there.
Man, don't get
one
me
by
going.
one. It's like, these Titleist exclusive shops. Okay, that's great. So you're basically doing something that is borderline illegal. I mean, I don't know. It's a monopoly, and you're telling every member at a golf club that you're basically buying out to be Titleist exclusive, that what they want is not important because you just want to make sure that whatever they buy is your brand and your ball. And that's great for the bottom line, but eventually it's going to catch up to them. And there comes a point where, if you look across every industry, the biggest innovations have always come from the small guy, from the guy that had to be so out of the box and scratch and claw its way into that industry because it was so impenetrable that it had to do something outrageous and truly innovative. And, these golf ball companies, they make phenomenal balls. Titleist makes phenomenal balls, but they're balls that are not for a very large number of people. It's the 1% that really are qualified to be playing with a Pro V1.
Yep.
Yet everyone wants to play with it because they see 60, 80, whatever it is percent of the players on tour using it. And it's almost like, it's like they turn to deaf ears when you say you do realize that they're playing this because they're getting paid tens of millions of dollars to.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if I went up to Jordan Spieth, to whoever, and said, I'm going to pay you $10 million more than Titleist is, and you play with our ball, I bet you they don't even ask what's in the ball.
Yeah.
I could tell them there are feathers. I could say, hey, it's going to be, remember the first
kryptonite
ball
in the
that ever
ball,
came
bro.
out? Right. I mean, it's just too bad. And so, one of the displays we have as a selling tool is a cutaway display, and it shows 3 of our major competitors' balls cut open, and then it shows ours on the end. And it's not to insult or it's not a negative comment about their balls, but it's just a reality of the situation. You look at them, you cut them all open, and like you said, they've been claiming innovation. Oh, it's revolutionary. Cut them open. They all look exactly the same. They're all exactly the same. The innovation, for the most part, for the last 30 years, as far as golf balls, has come in the dimple patterns. And even that's getting a little stretched now.
Yeah.
So when you have those next to a ball that has a hollow 0.9-inch 304 grade A stainless steel center, it is undeniably different from an aesthetic standpoint. And then you look at what the physics and the science behind it are, and then the reason for creating it, which was we created it to make a ball to help grow the sport for the masses, to not have a person have the worst time of his life the first time he tries to pick up golf. Don't get me wrong, it's not a laser-guided missile. If it was, it would never be USGA conforming. That was a fight in itself, which I'm sure you'll ask about and I'll tell you about. But
we're going to talk about that.
It has to be, it does provide forgiveness, and it provides a little bit of enjoyment and innovation like that. When it looks so different, it's something that gets people excited and talking again. And if people are excited about something and they're talking about something, and that means it's good for the game.
A lot of people who are listening go, yeah, I know that's a golf ball, and I think I know that there's a core, and then there's a blah blah blah, and then there's a So let's go through generally what that is, and if you know the history of the golf ball, generally speaking, and how it's developed, how that innovation has been stifled over the last, say, 10 or 15 years.
It's really been solid rubber for about 30, but yeah, sure.
Okay, so 30, and then tell us about your technology.
Sure. Obviously, the game of golf in general and all the equipment have gone through tons of evolutionary upgrades and innovation.
And we don't have to go back to playing in Scotland, but let's just say over the last 50 years, we had Bellata before we had Bellata. I don't know what we had before that, but you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, you've had everything from feathers to
Yeah.
wound rubber to the balata to solid rubber, and the solid rubber really has been what's been around for about 30 years. And the rubber is a blend of polybutadiene, which is just a type of rubber. There are companies that make 2-piece, 3-piece, 4-piece, 5-piece, all sorts of balls. What I can tell you is, they're the different layers. One of the layers is going to be a cover. What's on the outside of the ball?
Yep.
So you're either going to see a Surlyn or you're going to see a urethane type cover, and those affect the durability of the golf ball. They affect the softness, and they affect the spin rates. Part of what people like about a Pro V1 is the spin on the wedges that are created by urethane cover because of that stickiness to the club face. It creates a desired wedge or a spin to be able to stick on the greens. Surlyn is known to be a little less soft, a little stiffer, but it's a little tougher. It's also a little bit more durable though, from as far as how long it'll last on a club. Now, what's funny about durability though, is that most people shouldn't be concerned with it, because how many people play with the same ball for 400, 500 hits, which is what durability testing, you want to get above 300 usually, right?
Yeah.
So who's hitting the same ball for 300 hits? But of course, everyone, this ball will last you forever. Well, you know what? If it's dirty enough, you're going to use a new one anyway because you want something, shiny and new to play with. But 4-piece is probably the most common tour ball construction, or has been, because you get a 3 and 4-piece, because you get the urethane cover, and then multi-layer balls have been, more frequent, I think, as of late, because part of the reason manufacturers started developing the multi-layer balls was to try and attempt to create perimeter weighting. You wanted to get more of the weight towards the perimeter. Now, what's funny is that we have perfected with a hollow core what multi-layer balls intention was.
Well, it makes so much sense just thinking about it. If you have a hollow core, where is the weight? It's not in the center.
Right. It's gone. It's
but what is the value of what is the value of perimeter weighting?
Yeah, perimeter weighting, the easiest way to think about it is I use the analogy of a figure skater. When a figure skater goes into a spin and they are speeding up, their arms and their legs are both in tight. And so that's when they're going faster than all hell. When they want to slow down, they put their arm or their leg or both outward, and they shift the weight to the perimeter, and of course they quickly slow down and come to a stop.
Okay.
Well, perimeter weighting is going to benefit you when you miss-hit a ball off the tee. When you miss-hit a ball and it's going to hook or slice, that's because obviously that you've hit it incorrectly off the heel, off the toe, whatever you want to call it, and that side spin is at a very fast rate. And of course, like anything, because of physics, that spin will eventually come to a stop. But the reason you're seeing that kind of toenail curve is because that side spin is not going to slow down at a quick enough pace to actually straighten out for you. It's just going to keep on that arch until it hits the ground. Perimeter weighting is like having your arms and legs outward. So if you do miss-hit the ball, of course you're going to start off with that fast side spin, but the spin rate, the side spin decays at a much faster pace because now the legs and the arms of the golf ball and the weight are pushed to the outside.
Nice.
So some people, I mean, it's funny, some reviewers have said, it's a self-correcting ball because it'll start on that arch and then you'll see it. I mean, if you really hit a bad one, you'll actually see it, start to actually straighten out, and then just eventually, decays. Right, exactly. It just decays at a much quicker pace.
Hey there, everybody. This episode is also brought to you by another awesome, forward-leaning, innovative golf venture called Rival and Revel. We all look forward to that next round of golf, a trip with old friends, or a rare moment of pursuing our passions late in the evening, the sun's going down. Their goal is to make this valuable leisure time even more enjoyable, efficient, and relaxing, offering a variety of branded golf accessories, club head tech covers, and the one and only Silo Golf Club carrier. This product is a game changer in the golf industry, and it may just be a game changer for you too. If you don't know what the Silo is, press stop. Head over to their website, rivalandrevel.com, and check it out. Whether you are the super competitive player or one that just celebrates being out there. Rival and Revel's mission is to help you make the most of it. Now, they've got a special discount just for our listeners. Use the code PACE of CHANGE at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. Okay, so let's jump back a little bit and talk about the engineer who developed the golf ball and what his thoughts were, and then tell me what is special, what is different, what is innovative specifically about the OnCore golf ball.
Sure. So Doug Defoe was part of a group that he formed called Noonan, and that was consisting of Noonan. Yeah, consisting of four just stupidly brilliant, right? Like insanely smarter than I could ever hope to be. Engineers, and they had gone out for a round of golf. They weren't great, and so they're back at the clubhouse.
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And they thought, Doug's like, I don't have time to fix my swing. What can we do to fix the golf ball? And you look at even the evolution of golf clubs, and that's how they came up with this. They said, what have golf clubs done? Everything's about perimeter weighting these days. Wood to solid steel to hollow steel, hollowed wedges, hollowed everything. And they're like, what if we did that to a golf ball? Because reducing side spin would be the key, to creating a straighter shot when you miss hit it, when you hook or slice it. And so first they thought, all right, so we put a hollow core in a ball. Well, how do you even make that? Because they thought maybe we could, create the hollow core by using a rubber. A plastic. But, of course, that was going to break. Same thing with a lot of the metals they tried. They were trying to put, a variety of different metals, and some were they were too light, and if you lose too much weight in a golf ball, you lose distance. Some were not able to withstand the impact of high swing speeds and would actually crush or crack or deform under that impact. Some were way too heavy, where they would actually push the ball above the weight limit. So that would never be USGA conforming, because they always wanted to make sure that it was USGA conforming. And others were just too expensive, where if anyone were to ever try and bring this to market, it wouldn't be feasible, because you'd have to charge $80 a dozen because it's so expensive.
Yeah, the materials, yeah.
Right, but being really smart guys and in the advanced materials space, they came across stainless steel, and they used a version called the 304 grade A stainless steel, and use that to make a hollow core. And what they do is they take two spheres and they laser weld them together. They buff it out, they polish it, they clean it, make sure all the edges are clean.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole other process which they had to develop the tooling for and all that, because
and
it's
this is still a passion
project.
This is just a passion project for them at this point,
right? Right. Yeah. So this is an invention that they did patent, and Douglas Defoe was working for my father at the time for a nanotech and advanced materials company.
Okay.
My dad's another one of the smartest guys in the world.
Okay,
he really is.
Awesome. Okay, so that says a lot about you too, and his son.
Yeah, I'm not that smart. No.
So your dad's name is Keith.
Yeah,
and
Keith Blakely. Yep.
And briefly, what does Keith do?
So Keith, my father started his first company back in his early 20s. He graduated with a double major in 2 years.
Okay.
So he was done with college with 2 majors at 19. He's got I think a 167 IQ. He's in the top 5% of the world, and he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. He's a really
I don't know if you
guy.
listen to a lot of podcasts, but I listen to the Tim Ferriss show, which is awesome. But there's a guy on there right now that has one of the highest IQs in the world. It's 197 or something like that, and he got tested when he was What they've discovered though is that somebody who has a high IQ usually has a very low EQ, which is the emotional quotient or the emotional intelligence, and so people that are very, very smart have a hard time interacting with other human beings because they just don't think the same way. And so they can be seen as very kind of harsh or critical or looking down at you or just not knowing when to, kind of shut their mouth.
Turn it
or,
off, right.
So that's amazing that he's got that high IQ, but at the same time, he's got the high EQ to be able to kind of, socialize and be successful in the world.
Oh, he's a funny guy. He was the lead singer of his rock band in high school, played with Mr. Big. He was an athlete. He, hopeless romantic. That's where I got my dweeby romantic side from. He's phenomenal to my mom. It's just, really breaks the mold in that aspect. But, so Doug walked into his office one day and said, "Hey, Keith, did I ever tell you about the golf ball I invented?" I said, "Golf ball? No, what golf ball?" And so he kind of told me about the idea, and my dad said, "Hey, this is going to be a really cool way to maybe get some attention on advanced materials and how it can transcend different, industries." And so he funded the prototyping of this ball, which was over $2 million of investment to be able to prototype it. And the intent was never for my dad to turn his advanced materials and nanotechnology company. They were doing stuff for the defense, the military, everything. It was never to turn into a sports manufacturing company. This was never going to be brought to market. It was really kind of an attention grabber and to help Doug, who he had really appreciated, his hard work and his intelligence, and it brought him to Buffalo to work for him and everything. Wow. And said, there could be something where this turns into something huge down the road, but not in a way of being in the golf ball industry, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So they funded the prototyping, and it did get them news. It got them front page on the sports section of USA Today, I think it was. But it was a story about how it's an advanced materials company that invented a golf ball.
Nice.
From there, it basically that was it. They had invented it. It wasn't really a commercializable product. It had gotten them some of the attention and, helped with investment and all that stuff that they wanted. And that was it. Doug's probably got 100 inventions in his workshop in his garage. And this one was just a really cool one to prototype and help get some visibility and bring some money in. So
okay, let's date this. So when is all this happening? The $2 million investment for the prototyping. What year are we talking about, or what time period?
I believe it was in 2006. I want to say. So 2006, I had just moved to New York City.
Yep.
And I had gone there to try and find a job in advertising and marketing.
Okay, because where'd you go to college?
I went to Canisius College in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Great school, small school. Majored in communication with a minor in marketing and advertising, and kind of got out of college. And there wasn't much as far as marketing and advertising agencies in Buffalo at that time. Now there's tons. It's just gone under such revitalization. Yeah, it's. We got $1 billion vet. Buffalo's blown up right now. It's actually rated as one of the number one cities in the country to move to, and it's drastically different from 5 years ago. It's pretty phenomenal. But at that time, I got out of school. I was a personal trainer, was delivering pizzas, but I'd always wanted to move to New York. I knew I was going to raise a family and grow up in Buffalo or live in Buffalo, but my older brother lived in New York for 12 years. I'm like, I got to live there for a few years.
You got to go.
Yeah, check it out. Have some fun. So I'm delivering pizzas, and I'm like, God, what's my plan? How am I getting there? And I just kind of said, screw it. I put my car up on Craigslist, sold it for $8,000, and a week later, I booked a flight down to New York. First place I went to see, I had a string of apartments I was going to look at to move into. And, of course, the first place I see was I had no idea, by the way, about, how expensive different neighborhoods were or anything. Yeah. And first place I was looking at was a luxury building on Wall Street.
With $8,000
So I walk in. Right. So I walk in, and I'm like, oh, my God. There's the mezzanine has a movie theater, pool tables. Everything. The apartment that they're showing me is a studio. So, the kitchen is in the bathroom, which is in the living room, 290 square feet. but it's
The
overlooking
whole
the
thing.
sun. Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh my
overlooking
God.
twice
It's like
as floor.
50 by 30 feet.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was bad. And but it was gorgeous. You know, it's in New York. It's exciting, and the amenities were sick. And it's overlooking a rooftop deck. You know, and I'm like, all right, if I'm coming to New York, I'm coming big. And so like a moron,
You did
I said,
not.
I'll take it.
You did not.
Yeah, I said my parents, I'm like, I found a great place. Don't worry, Mom, I'll be safe. That was kind of the hook. Like,
Oh, nice.
I'll be really nice and safe. I said, I got the money for it, but I need a co-signer. Luckily they did. You know, probably never should have happened, but so I had that, and they're like, you know, you got to find a job. They're like, this is all on you. They're like, this is a huge risk. This is incredibly expensive. Are you sure you don't want to try and find a ton of roommates, whatever? I said, I got it. So I moved 4 weeks from when I sold my car. I was actually moved into my apartment.
Yeah, so you're motivated
No job,
now. You're
right?
like, I got to make this work.
Oh yeah. So a couple buddies of mine helped me move all my stuff in. And first I wanted to find a place to work out. So I go and I find the Equinox gym on Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
I walk in and it's like leather couches, mahogany wood everywhere, just the most beautiful equipment I've ever seen. And I'm like, hey, how much for a membership? And they're like, oh, you know, it's only $180 a month or something. I'm like, oh, okay, do you have a job application instead? And they're like, we have to become certified, all that. And so that was my first job.
Yeah.
I was a personal trainer at the Wall Street Equinox, and simultaneously I got a temp job, or through a temp agency, just kind of doing clerk stuff at a law firm right off of Wall Street as well. So I had to be at work at 4:30 a.m. at the gym because I trained all the Wall Street guys, and they had to be in by 5:30 latest. So I got up in the morning and trained them, and then by about 12:30 or 1:30, I just walked 3 blocks over and would work until like 6 or 7 at night at the law firm, just organizing, you know, documents, all that kind of stuff, and did that for 6 months, and then 6 to 9 months, and then a headhunter found me my first job at an international ad agency, and that was what I did for the rest of the time while I was in New York, which was great, but I actually didn't like it because I was an account executive, so I was really nothing more than the interface between the client and creative.
Yeah.
And for me, my intelligence is not in science or numbers or math. I have ADD out the wazoo. You know, everything that I am good at all has to do with creative thinking and out of the box thinking and all that, taglines, whatever. So I mean, for me, it wasn't really a great job, but New York itself was fun, and the experience was fun, and you know, I got to work on some really cool accounts. It's just I wasn't as much part of the brainstorming and everything as I wanted to be. So that was another reason why I kind of wanted to follow my dad's footsteps of having my own company, because I wanted to be in control, in control of my destiny, but be able to take something from nothing or from start to finish and put my own spin on it, and not do it the way anybody else would probably do it. And that was kind of where I think that began. And then, I mean, it was 3 years later that the beginnings of OnCore began to take shape.
And it wasn't just you. You got a really close friend as well, right?
Right. So a Buffalo friend of mine whose sister I graduated with hit me up on Facebook when I first moved to New York, and he's like, hey, I know you graduated with my sister. I'm a few years younger than you. We never hung out, but I want to welcome you to the city. There's a Mexican bar called Blue Moon on 75th and 1st, and the owner's from Buffalo, so he plays all the hockey games, all the Sabres games. I'm like, what?
Let's do this.
You know, for me, it's like, for one, it was a Buffalo connection, so that was cool because I was still new to the city. And for two, I mean, I'm obsessed with sports, played hockey my whole life. And it's funny because that entire year that I worked at Wall Street in the morning and the law firm, and then even into when I was doing the ad agency, I would take a cab when I got out of work at 7:30 from Wall Street all the way up to 75th and First for every single Sabres game. And I did not miss one game that year. That was the year that we won the President's Cup too for the best league or best record of the league. So it was cool. But Charles, the Buffalo guy, his roommate was Steve Colton, who ended up being obviously a good friend and is the co-founder of OnCore Golf too. And so Charles and Steve and all their buddies that I hung out with had been, classmates and all played on the NYU golf team together. So that's why they even knew about the ball, because I was like, oh, you guys golf? Wait to hear about this ball that, an engineer that worked for my dad invented. So it was always a topic of discussion when my parents would come and visit. But it wasn't until 2.5 years later that Steve and I, kind of took it to the next level.
What was Steve doing in New York?
Well, he went to NYU and then, played on the golf team and everything. He had a girlfriend. He was dating, but he was working in finance at Deutsche Bank on Wall Street. And so in December 8, 2008, that's when the job market blew up. Yeah. And that week, that day, Steve and I both lost our jobs on the exact day. Completely different companies and industries, both due to downsizing. My agency went from 25 people at the New York office to 10. I don't know how many people got fired from Deutsche Bank. So, I mean, OnCore came about out of kind of, what do we do now? Steve called me up and said, hey, want to grab a coffee tomorrow? Sure. We get there and we're just spitballing, and we're like, wonder if we could maybe do some marketing for that golf ball. Not really knowing if it was already being pushed out there by Doug or what was going on. So called my dad and said, hey, what's Doug doing with that golf ball he invented? And he's like, well, nothing, it was just an invention. It was a project. It was nothing. And we're like, oh, it's too bad because, we both don't have jobs now. And it doesn't look good for finding another one. I actually got my bartending license that time and have never used it since. But, we were just like, what do we do? And he's like, you'd have to start a company. I'm like, all right, how do we do that? And since you've done it, just tell me. Yeah. And he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you. You're not going to learn anything. And I'm like, fine. And he said, there's a thing called Small Business Association. He's like, they provide free advice. Go there. You can pick their brains, figure out all the things you need to know about business. And at that point, I had 6 months on the lease. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you go to the SBA for the next 6 months and you figure out everything you need to know, all the boring stuff about starting a company, I will do nothing more than set up a meeting between you and Doug. After that, I can't promise you anything.
Wow.
Like, why does it sound like a very good probability? But we're like, all right, we'll do it. We have nothing better to do. So we just walk down a couple miles every day, and it's like all these old lawyers, and they just give you free advice. And so we'd spend 4 to 6 hours there every day, learned what bylaws were, how to write them, learned, what kind of corporations were most tax lenient. And we did that and then put together what is probably, looking back on it, an embarrassing business plan. But, it was our best effort. Yeah. And so we set up the meeting. And, we told Doug, hey, we'd love to try and bring this thing to market. I've got a marketing background. Steve's got the golfing background and finance. We're the yin and yang to each other. We're going to try and do something completely different. If it worked for Titleist, we're going to do the opposite. And he's like, I love it. He goes, are you kidding me? He goes, yes. This thing was never going to see the light of day. So that's kind of how it formed.
All right, guys, we're going to cut it right there. Episode 11 in the books, part 1 of our conversation with Bret Blakely. Be sure to check back next week. We're going to get further into his story, this unfolding story of OnCore Golf, how they take on the USGA. Bret takes us through some of the difficult challenges, the temporary defeats, and ultimately, historic triumphs he and the rest of the team have experienced since getting started back in 2009. You don't want to miss it. In the meantime, check this out. As a special discount for our loyal listeners, Head over to our website, paceofchange.com, for access to a discount on OnCore's products. Go out, buy a dozen balls or something. Check out, see if their technology makes a difference in your game, and let's support OnCore's mission to grow the game through innovation. Now, how can you support our efforts here at the Pace of Change? It's real simple. Follow us on Facebook /Pace of Change. Follow us on Twitter at Pace of Change Pod. Visit our website, sign up for our newsletter. It's going to keep you up to speed on the latest podcast news, announcements, and updates. And coming soon, product reviews and offers. All right, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening on iTunes, you can really help us by subscribing there and leave a review. Every action you take above, it makes a bigger difference than you can imagine. So thank you in advance for taking the time to do that. How else can we serve you, the listener? What other topics would you like to hear about? Who in the world of golf would you like us to interview? Leave your comments on social media. Send us an email. Please know we value your feedback. All right, until next week, part 2 with Bret Blakely. Pick up the pace, guys. We'll see you next week.